In today's video, we're going to talk about the inspection report and what that looks like in the home buying process. Now, I live in Massachusetts, so I can only speak about the laws and the process that happens in Massachusetts. If you live in a different state, the home inspection process might be different. So keep that in mind as you're watching this video. And if you have any questions while you're watching the video, put them in the comments down below. I always read them and I always answer them. So let's get started. So currently in the state of Massachusetts, a home inspection is not required in the home buying process. And in recent years, because of the state and the competitiveness of the real estate market, people have chosen to forego the home inspection process to make their offer more appealing to the home seller. And even though that's worked on many occasions, I feel that the home inspection is probably the most important piece of the whole home buying process, and one that should not be overlooked if possible. A home inspection is a way for you as the buyer to get familiar with the house and to learn about potential hazards that are in the home that you cannot see just by walking through the home. And so it's imperative that as a buyer, you are educated and informed when you're making the biggest purchase of your life. So when you put an offer in a home, you have to state that the offer is contingent upon a home inspection, amongst other things like a mortgage approval and things like that. If you don't put that in the offer, then the home inspection doesn't exist and it's not even an option. And the home inspection is done after the offer is accepted, before the purchase and sale is signed. So the home inspection is purchased by the buyer. So the buyer has to pay for the home inspection. And a home inspection can run you anywhere between $400 to $800, depending on how big the house is and if you're adding other items to your home inspection. And the home inspection lasts anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. And again, that's all dependent on the size of the home and things like that. If you are buying a new construction home, you may think to yourself, well, I don't need a home inspection. It's brand new construction and nothing can be wrong with it. Well, you're wrong. You really should get a home inspection, even if it is new construction. Now, a home inspection must be done by a licensed home inspector, licensed by the state of Massachusetts home inspector. You can't ask your great uncle Luke to come and inspect the home, or your neighbor, although their opinions might be very valuable and might matter and might shed some light on the condition of a home. But if you have a home inspection in as a contingency and it's accepted, you need a licensed home inspector to do the official inspection. Some things a home inspection won't cover, and that is a pool. So if you're buying a home that has a pool, you might need to get a pool person to come in and take a look at the pool. And ideally, this would be done at the same time if you can. Home inspector cannot inspect a septic tank, so that is a whole separate entity. A home inspector will not check for asbestos, and a home inspector will not inspect a well. So if your water comes through a well system, you need to get a specialist in there to take a look at that. And a home inspector can look at the roof with binoculars and give you an idea of what condition the roof is and the chimney, but a home inspector will not climb the ladder and get up on the roof. So if an inspector tells you that there's something potentially wrong with the roof, or you want the roof to be completely inspected in and of itself, then you need to call a specialist in to inspect the roof and the chimney. Now remember, all those inspectors, those extra inspectors, do cost money, so be sure to budget for that when you're home shopping. Okay, so according to the state of Massachusetts, a home inspector's job is to do a visual examination of the property, exterior and interior major utilities. And the inspector's job is not to find every little teeny tiny thing with the home. It's to find the big picture items, and the inspector's job is to also educate the buyer during the inspection process. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. All right, so during the home inspection, you typically have the inspector, obviously, the buyers, and anyone the buyers want to have there, a parent, an uncle, a friend, whatnot, and the seller's agent. And it's a good idea for the seller's agent to be there, just so that if there are questions that the home inspector has or the buyer has, the seller can quickly get on the phone, call the seller and perhaps get that question answered right then and there. The seller is not present, however, for the home inspection. And during the inspection, it's a good idea for the home buyer to walk with the inspector so that the inspector can point things out of importance to the home buyer. I love walking with the home inspector because I always learn something new. No matter how many home inspections I've done, there's always something I pick up from a home inspection. Once the home inspection is done, their job is to then take all their findings, all the pictures they take throughout the inspection, and put it in a document for you that's ready in typically 24 to 36 hours. Now, when you get that document, it is easy to be overwhelmed because the document's usually like 30 pages or more. And in that document is essentially everything that you talk about with the home inspector, small things and big things alike. So when I'm working with buyers, there are 4 things I tell the buyers to look for. The first thing is structural. So if the home inspector says that there's something wrong with the foundation, maybe there are some suspicious cracks, something like that. If the inspector finds a problem with the structure of the house, I call that pretty major. The next thing I tell my buyers to focus on is evidence of significant water, moisture, and or mold. So in the basement, is there signs of water? And if so, how bad are these signs of water? Another place where mold actually tends to hide is up in the attic. Is it the kind of mold that can be washed with a bleach and water combination, or is it the type of mold that you need a specialist to come in and address? The third thing is there a safety issue. So for instance, is there damage to the stairs that make it dangerous for someone to climb up and down the stairs? Anything that could potentially cause a hazard, in my book, is significant and should be addressed. And the fourth thing is if there should be something that works that doesn't work. So for instance, the dishwasher doesn't work. Maybe the cooling system doesn't work. And nowhere in the paperwork that the seller has submitted, including any sort of disclosure that the seller has filled out, is there documentation that said dishwasher or said cooling system doesn't work. If the seller is up front and say, hey, the dishwasher doesn't work, that's a different story. But if the dishwasher is supposed to work and it doesn't work and you find that out in the inspection, that's significant. So those 4 major areas are what you should be looking at, and everything else is just kind of like educational and for you to kind of keep in the back of your head when you become a homeowner. There are 2 other things that might be significant for you. One is radon. So for homes that have a basement, it is important to get a radon check, especially if that basement has living area that you'll spend a lot of time in. Every home has some level of radon, but if the radon level is too high, that's a health risk. And if the test comes back for high for radon, then you need to discuss some sort of solution to that. And oftentimes it's a radon mitigation system that can put in for short money, and you can decide who's gonna pay for that. And the other thing is lead paint. Any homes that were built before 1978 does have lead paint in it. You might wanna get a lead inspection done. So after the inspection comes back, if there are some issues that are of concern, negotiations kind of start up again where you decide who's going to fix what. And the seller doesn't have to fix or address anything. The seller can simply say no. You, the buyer, have to determine whether, okay, well, they're not going to do anything. I'm either going to walk away or I'm just going to accept it or whatnot. I mean, that's why you have the home inspection anyhow, to decide whether, the home is got some hidden hazards in it that was more for you that you want to take on as a home buyer. So once you've decided that the cooling system, for instance, needs to get fixed, and you've decided that the sellers have decided, okay, we're going to take care of the cooling system, we'll make sure to get it fixed before close, all that information or that agreement gets put in the purchase and sale agreement. So it makes the seller accountable to make sure that the seller does what the seller is supposed to do, what the seller agreed to do. Now, inevitably, when a buyer is going through the home with a home inspector, there are certain questions that come up that the inspector can't answer. Buyers always ask, well, how long do you think it'll last? Like, is it gonna die soon? Inspectors cannot answer that question. Another question inspectors can't answer is, well, how much do you think it's gonna cost to fix it? I don't know. And the third question buyers always ask is, well, why isn't it working? What's the problem? What happened? Inspectors don't know that, and they can't answer that question. What inspectors can tell you is the current condition of an appliance, of a utility, and that is it. They can't guess when something's going to break, and they can't guess why it's not working, or they can't tell you how much something is going to cost. So as much as you want to ask that question, don't, because an inspector can't give you the answer to that. Okay, so that's really the nuts and bolts of a home inspection and where that process fits into the home buying process in the state of Massachusetts, and what you do with the information you get after a home inspection. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it is a vital part of the home buying process for the buyer, and one that should never be missed if possible. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about the real estate process and living in Massachusetts, go ahead and give me a follow and hit that little bell so you get notified whenever a new video drops. And if you have more questions about the inspection process, like I said in the beginning of the video, put it in the comments down below. I'm happy to help. And of course, my contact info is in the description. So if you want to ask a personal question regarding the home inspection, or you want to have a further conversation regarding a home inspection or real estate in general, contact me via email, via text, via phone call. I'm happy to chat anytime. See you next time.